Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Itipiso bhagava araham samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavido anuttaro purisa dhamma sarathi sattha deva manussanam buddho bhagavati. Friends and children in the Dhamma, welcome for the Saturday usual talk, and this is a special talk during these 3 months of the rains retreat that we are conducting special Dhamma talks as well as pujas. Today this Dhamma talk is sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Damita and Usha De Silva, together with the son and the daughter Akita and Nishadi, and also Mr. and Mrs. Kanchana and Utpala Pereira, together with the sons Kemet and Imet. By the power of this meritorious positive energy that we acquire throughout this 1 hour of time, may all their aspirations become fruitful. May all their goals, aims, expectations become successful. May all those children be successful in their education and to have a bright future. May all the passed away relatives of theirs be overcome, be enabled to move on, be enabled to overcome their sufferings, and finally, may all these merits be dedicated for the ultimate liberation of Nibbana. With these aspirations, let's begin the talk on the Bhagava, the last epithet of the 9 epithets of the stanza that we chanted just now. So far, we have described 8 epithets. Today is the final one, Bhagava, the Blessed One. This is the most famous epithet that the people used to indicate the Buddha. Usually this Bhagava comes together with Buddho Bhagava, giving the meaning the enlightened master or the Buddha is blessed. Buddha is the Blessed One. Now, we have to understand all these epithets of the Buddha were given by the people or the followers of the Buddha, seeing the virtues of him. They created these epithets for him. Not that the Buddha created epithets for him. Followers or the people around him created these epithets. So these Bhagava signifies certain amount of virtues, qualities of the Buddha for the people to be called the Blessed One, O Bhagava. Now let's go on this epithet in the sense of skim or sink, dive deep in the virtues related to the epithet Bhagava. Now, the first or the foremost quality behind this Bhagava is that the Buddha is the venerated one, is worthy of veneration, or he is the most respectful person, respected person. Now, we have to understand, for 400,000 incalculable eons, that is how Chatura Sankhya Kalpalaksha, 400,000 incalculable eons, the Bodhisattva was practicing. What he practiced was the parami. All his practice in such incalculable eons are collected into the group called 10 parami, Dasa parami. Now, this Dasa parami was completed by the time when he assumed his last physical body as Prince Siddhartha. And by that time itself, he was in the pinnacle of his development in the sense of virtues and morality. No other human being in this world was comparable or can be compared to the Bodhisattva in his last life. So even before the enlightenment of the Buddha, the Prince Siddhartha was already an object of worship. It is explained in this incident that when he was just born, he took 7 steps. At each of the steps, lotuses sprang up to welcome his feet. At the 7th step, he stopped, raised his hand to the sky, and he uttered, Aggo hamasmi lokasa. I am the greatest in the world, for the world. Jetto hamasmi lokasa. I am the eldest for the world. Setto hamasmi lokasa. I am the noblest for the world. I am antima jati. This is my antima jati, last life, last birth. Nati dani punabhavo. Henceforth, or from here onwards, there is no re-becoming for me. Punabhavo, puna, again, bhava, becoming. There is no becoming for me. This is my last life. Now, this declaration indicates 2 aspects of his life. The first one is that he is already the noblest, the greatest, and the eldest in the world. Now, here we can very clearly see he is not talking about the physical age, chronological age. He is just an infant, just born infant. How can he become the eldest in the world? He is all talking about the spiritual age. He has cultivated his spirituality to the pinnacle of the humanity or divinity or among all the beings. No other being is at the level of his states of development of the spirituality. This is the first aspect of this stanza. The second aspect is that his prediction that I am going to be the Buddha. There is no way my aim of becoming enlightened can be stopped. So it is a clear prediction for his future of becoming the Buddha. So even prior to his enlightenment, we can see that Buddha is already being respected, to be bowed down by everybody. But he is not supposed to bow down to anyone, even to his father. In this human history, no father has ever bowed down to his own son. Only this is the situation where in the Buddha's life that we can see his father, King Suddhodana, bowed down, physically bowed down twice, touching his son's feet. Why? Because of the infinite virtues, morality, the qualities, the virtuous background behind the Bodhisattva is incomparable to any other being in the world. Yeah. So with that, when he was enlightened, all those virtues blossomed, they flourished. Now, this Bhagava is representing, as I said before, many virtues. Yeah. In the commentaries, we can find a long list of virtues behind the epithet Bhagava. Because of these virtues that we call him the Blessed One. But unfortunately, you can find, especially in India, these days or in few last centuries, you can find a lot of Bhagavans are there. People, certain individuals, they just claim they are sons or representatives of the God, and they themselves called, I am a Bhagavan, we are Bhagavans. Yeah. So many Bhagavans. But Buddha says, he is Bhagavan not because he is a son of a God or representative of the God or a messenger of God, but because he has Bhaggaragoti Bhagava. He has destroyed Raga, desire. Bhagga, abolished. Bhaggaragoti Bhagava. He destroyed desire. Thus he is Bhagava. Bhagga dosoti Bhagava. He abolished hate, anger, ill will. Hence he is Bhagava. Bhagga mohoti Bhagava. He destroyed ignorance, delusion. Hence he is Bhagava. Bhagga dittoti Bhagava. Because he destroyed wrong views, wrong concepts, wrong understanding. Hence he is Bhagava. Bhagga Kantak hoti Bhagava. Because he destroyed, he abolished the craving. He is Bhagavan. So this is the idea given for the Bhagava based on the destruction of the defilements, including greed, hatred, delusion, wrong views and desires. Since he destroyed all these defilements, he is called Bhagava, the Blessed One. The most famous idea of the Blessed One is that he is fortunate. He is the fortunate one, the Blessed One, the fortunate one. Now this is something puzzling. He is someone who left everything behind and went to the forest. He left all the palaces, all the riches, all the wealth, all the properties and the power. He left everything behind and went to the forest. He became virtually a beggar, wearing a thrown away, wearing a piece of garment which is made out of thrown away pieces of cloth, and having a earthen bowl to collect food, and having no permanent abode or shelter for him to live in. Such a person, nobody can say he's a fortunate one. He's kind of a beggar type person. How can you say he's a fortunate one? He's kind of a homeless one. We never say homeless can become a fortunate one or can be named as somebody fortunate, blessed person. Now again, he is called fortunate or blessed not by himself, but by others. Because the Brahmins or the ancestors or the ancient people in India had these measurements, 6 types of fortune characteristics, or the types of fortunes to acquire by anyone in the mundane or secular world. If somebody in the secular world, day-to-day world, to be called fortunate, must acquire, must have these 6 types of factors of fortune. Now these 6 types of factors of fortune were applied to the Buddha not in the sense of secular or mundane level of understanding, but in the supramundane level of something beyond world, something away from the worldly or sensual pleasures. In the supramundane level, when these 6 categories are applied, Buddha is the most fortunate person. Yeah. Now what are these 6 categories? First one is lordship. Lordship, Issariya Bhagya. Issariya. Ishwara come out of this Issariya. Ishwara is the Lord of something. Now Issariya Bhagya is Buddha's lordship. Again, this is not about a material thing, not about a country or not about a group of people, not about any particular sphere. Because Buddha is not a lord of any material thing. then what does he dominate? On what his lordship is leading upon? Buddha is Chitteshwara, lordship over his mind. Buddha, the mind is just a utensil for the Buddha, a servant for the Buddha. Now Buddha says, if you do not have any lordship over your mind, no matter what kind of lordship you have, you are still a slave to your mind. You are controlled by your own mind. If you are being controlled by your own mind, then what happened? You are just a servant for your mind. Mind is your servant, but you have put the servant on the throne and you have become servant for your servant. So in the Buddha's eyes, everybody is a servant. Why? They are the servants of their mind. Whatever the mind demands, they are bound to answer the demands of the mind. Actually here, the mind in the sense defilements. As long as our mind is defiled, we are surrendering to those defilements. We are succumbing to the whims and fancies, to the demands of those defilements. While we are being controlled by the mind, Buddha is in control of his mind. When he wants to use his mind, he just uses his mind. When he wants to remember something, when he wants to give a talk, when he wants to use it, he just uses it. In other times, he just keep it aside and just bring out the pure awareness without thoughts. When he face or confront the exterior or external stimulations, he just uses his awareness, not the mind. We use our mind to confront the external impacts on our senses. But Buddha uses his awareness. That is why emotions cannot arise in the Buddha while he is handling the situations in the world. So the mind is in absolute control in the Buddha's hand. He is Chitteshwara. That is why he is unshaken. Nobody can shake him. Nobody can disturb him. With that purified state of his mind, he has found his happiness also. His happiness depends on him, not others. Our happiness is not found within us. Our happiness is based on others, based on the external world. That is why we are shaken. Shaken from what? Shaken from the 8 vicissitudes of the life. Gain, loss, fame, shame, blame, praise, blame, comfort, discomfort. Again, gain, loss, fame, shame, praise, blame, comfort, discomforts. These 8 factors, 4 in the good side, 4 in the bad side. We are happy to receive gain, fame, praise, comfort. We are so elated, so joyful, but in the corner of our mind we are afraid these good sides, gain, fame, praise and discomfort, can turn into the other side. And there is a possibility tomorrow these things can completely diametrically change into the opposite side of blame, loss, shame and the discomforts. Everybody is in the same level. Everybody is in the same group when we talk about these 8 vicissitudes of the life. Even the kings are shaken in fear at the hands of the negative side of the vicissitudes. A beggar and the king, rich, poor, educated, non-educated, everybody face the same type of impacts from these 8 vicissitudes. Why they are shaken, why they are disturbed? Because simply they are not the lords over their minds. They are not the masters of their minds. But Buddha was never shaken by them. There are many situations in the Buddha's life that he had to face. Sometimes we may never have to face such situations, and anybody could have run away. Anybody wanted to change the circumstances. But Buddha never tried to change the external circumstances just because they are difficult to bear. If he tried to change the external circumstances, he is not much of a Buddha. What he teaches is, or what he did was, he changed himself. He changed the interior. He did not try to change the exterior. Only one instance, once he had to, or he spent the rains retreat in the town called Veranja. After he began the rains retreat, the Vasana, with a large number of monks, they found the food is so rare to find, scarce to find. The country was facing a dire drought. Everybody is suffering with the lack of food to survive. Fortunately, there was a merchant of horses, and this merchant promised the Sangha, I will provide you food, but the food I have is the food for the horses. I have some extra food. I can share that food with you. So the monks collected this food, horse food, from the merchant, and they brought back and prepared them, and they even offered to the Buddha same horse food. Some monks did not want to see this, Buddha eating horse food. Venerable Moggallana, he suggested Buddha, shall I do a miracle and get food from your relatives? I don't want to see that you are eating this kind of food. Buddha says there is no need such a thing. Everybody is suffering. I don't want to be some exceptional treatments. In fact, he was not disturbed. He was not disturbed by the fact that he has to eat the horse food, because his happiness was not depending on the food he eats. He is happy unto himself. Why? He is Chitteshwara. He is the Lord over his mind. Because of this lordship over his mind, Buddha is the Blessed One. The second reason for the Buddha to be called the Blessed One is his Dhamma Bhagya, his closeness, his affinity with the Dhamma. Now here Dhamma is his spiritual cultivation. Buddha's spiritual cultivation is the cultivation of everybody. Whoever follows on the path towards Nibbana, they have to cultivate just like the Buddha. So since Buddha's affinity with this Dhamma, his possessionship with the Dhamma is so powerful, we call him Buddha is the Blessed One. Now, what is this spirituality? What is this affinity with the spirituality? It is twofold: mundane level and the supramundane level. Mundane level of spirituality is the 4 fine material jhanas. 4 immaterial jhanas we call Rupavachara jhana, Arupavachara jhana. Then we call it the level of development of the mind, that you become completely out of the level of thinking as well as cognizing or understanding. We call that one is something that you can experience, or a meditator can experience while he was living as well as when he passed away. Yeah, that is the 7th level of mundane jhana. And then comes the 6th abhinya, chalabhinya. These are the factors of mundane level of his spiritual development. The 4 types of Rupavachara jhana, or the fine material jhanas, are Vitakka Vichara Piti Sukha Ekaggata Sahita Patamajjhana, Vichara Piti Sukha Ekaggata Sahita Dutiyajjhana, Sukha Ekaggata Sahita Tatiyajjhana, Upekka Ekaggata Sahita Chaturtajjhana. Then comes the Akasananchayatana, Viññānañcāyatana, Akinchanyāyatana, Nevasanya Nasanyāyatana. These are the fine material and immaterial levels of jhana. And then comes the jhanic level, that you get out of the mind, get out of the thinking level. For 7 days, if somebody practices this, for 7 days you can remain without being interfered with the mind at all. Then comes the Chalabinya. 6 types of abhinya, 6 types of wisdom develops through the concentration, develops through the purification of the mind. Iddhivita, different kinds of miraculous performance, like flying in the sky, walking on water, diving into the earth, appearing in 2 places at the same time. Such types of different types of psychic powers. Iddhivita, Dibbasota, ability to listen to the sounds near and far away. Cheto Pariyajnana, ability to understand the consciousness of his followers, of the audience. Ability to read the others' minds, and the destruction of the defilements. These are the types of wisdom that the Buddha generate through the mundane practices of fine material and immaterial jhanas. Then comes the supramundane practices. Supramundane practice is based on vipassana. Vipassana is the pure Buddhistic form of meditation. Samatha was already there when the Buddha arose in the world. It is not a production or an discovery of the Buddha. It is something developed throughout the ages in the Indian society. But nobody has found the method of destroying all the defilements. And the Buddha, he discovered this technique called vipassana, and together with the middle path, he applied to his consciousness to get rid of the defilements. So it is a gradual process of removing the defilements. In that process of removing the defilements, the enlightenment will arise. So with the deepening of vipassana, there are 7 purifications to happen. Purification of virtue, sila visuddhi. Purification of view, ditti visuddhi. Purification by overcoming doubt, kanka vitarana visuddhi. Purification of the path, the right path and the wrong path, through the wisdom, jnana dassana visuddhi. So likewise, there is 7 stages of purification is there with the deepening of with the strengthening of the vipassana. When somebody is strengthening his vipassana and developing the purifications, then the 10 fetters which obstruct the enlightenment starts vanishing. Yeah. Sakkaya ditti, vicikiccha, sila self-view, sakkaya ditti, vicikiccha doubt, and silabbata paramasa adherence to righteous and rituals. These fetters start vanishing, he becomes sotapanna. Kamaraga and patiga, sensual desire and hate is diminished when with that diminishing of sensual desire and hate, he becomes Sakadagami. When that sensual desire and hate completely destroyed, he becomes Anagami, never returner. Then, as the last defilements, desire for fine material realms, Ruparaga, desire for immaterial realms, Aruparaga, conceit, Mana, Uddacha, restlessness, and Avijja, ignorance. These 5 factors, 5 defilements are gone, and with that destruction of these 5 defilements, he becomes an Arahant, or he entered into the Nirvana. So these are the twofold Dhamma that the Buddha possessed, mundane level and also the supramundane level. Since he possessed these Dhamma with him, he is said to be having the Dhamma Bhagya, the blessedness of the Dhamma with the Buddha. Then the third one is Yasa Bhagya, the fame. Now, 2600 years back, it was such a time the informations were not so spreading as fast as today. Yeah. But Buddha's fame spreaded throughout the India in no time. And number of followers, kings, merchants, workers, Brahmins, they all started gathering around the Buddha, becoming his followers of laymen as Upasaka Upasika, devotees of male and female, and also monks and nuns. Thousands started gathering around him, not only the human beings but also the devas. Since he had this fame with him, which is spreaded throughout in India at that time, he is, we call, the Bhagava. Then comes the Sri Bhagya. Sri Bhagya is his appearance. His appearance was so divine. People usually misunderstood him as a divine being. Sometimes they even couldn't come to a conclusion. Now, not only after enlightenment, but before his enlightenment, as a prince, once he was traveling in his chariot, and a lady who was on her balcony watching the road saw this prince traveling in his chariot. And the vision of this prince gave her such an inspiration, and a spontaneous poem came to her mouth. She said, Nibbuttanuna samata, Nibbuttanuna sopita, Nibbuttanuna sanari, Yasayam idhisopati. Whosoever is the mother, father, wife of this young man, they must be happy. They must be peaceful. Such a inspiration created the appearance of Prince Siddhartha for the people around him. So after his renunciation as an ascetic. Still people were puzzled when they saw him. Now, just after his renunciation, he was doing his alms round in the city of Rajagha. The citizens as well as the king of the city, king of that country, were puzzled by this look of this young ascetic. Some said, this is a divine being, or this is a Naga serpent. This is a divine yakka. So they couldn't come to a conclusion. And the king sent some people to check and to conclude whether this ascetic is really a man or a divine being. Such was his appearance. And we can imagine after the enlightenment, with that purity of the heart, with that immense purity in the heart, the appearance of the Buddha must have created such a great impression on the people. Those whoever saw him were magnetically attracted to him. Even sometimes they had come to kill him, but they couldn't raise their hands to do any harm to the appearance of the Buddha, because it was such a divine-like appearance. Now, for 4 to 5 centuries after the Buddha's passing away, nobody was dared to draw or sculpt the Buddha's figure, Buddha's physical appearance, because those artists were afraid that there's a bigger possibility they will misrepresent the Buddha with their artistic creation. Such was his appearance. That is why they gave this epithet Bhagava to the Buddha, because he had this blessedness of the appearance, Sri Bhagya. The next one is Kama Bhagya. Kama Bhagya is usually in the sensual realm, or the people in the sensual realm. It is about gratifying the senses. Kama means what you desire. So if you have the fortunate on what you desire, means you can gratify your senses better than others. But here, the worldly pleasures have nothing to do with the Buddha. Buddha had overcome all those pleasures. He is in a sphere of supramundane, non-worldly. Here the desire, in the sense, the supramundane aspirations that the Buddha contained within him are represented. Now, he had 2 aspirations when he was practicing. First aspiration is to be self-enlightened with all the powers to help others for their enlightenment. For eons and eons, he was gradually developing his spirituality to be self-enlightened one day. And as the Gautam Siddhartha, as Bodhisattva, he was enlightened. Now, after the enlightenment, Buddha had only one aspiration, one single aspiration, that is to help others. Help others to find their own light and become enlightened by that light. So the people who are worthy of his assistance, worthy of his guidelines, were the search of the Buddha for 45 years to help them to overcome their suffering and to be enlightened. So 45 years, resting just for 2 hours a day, he sacrificed continuously for the liberation of the people. Not only human beings, but also divine beings. And he was successful. Remember, he had the most difficult job in the world as a teacher. Now, all the teachers understand this sad fact that no matter how much you work hard to give the real knowledge on a subject to the students, certain percentage of the students will always miss what the teachers are teaching. Yeah, it is so hard even to teach and to create some understanding in the students as the mundane level of teaching, mundane level of subject areas. It is such a difficult task. Now for the Buddha, he had to teach something beyond the world, something away from the world, something supramundane, something that his listeners have never known. He had to lead them there. And you can imagine how difficult it is for the Buddha to lead somebody to a destination which is completely unknown to the listener, unknown to his audience. But Buddha was very successful in that adventure, in that teaching process. He taught hundreds of thousands of people, and his teaching was so accurate in the sense whoever listens to his teaching was guided to the liberation, was direct to the enlightenment. Since he had this wish fulfillment on the both sides of self-enlightenment and helping others to be enlightened, Buddha is called Bhagya, Kama Bhagya, wish fulfilled. He is fortunate in his wish fulfillment. The next one is Payatna Bhagya, that is the endeavor. Now without endeavor, without effort, we will not find a Buddha in this world. Yeah. After the first affirmation he received under the Buddha Dipankara, lifetime to lifetime, he was never misguided, misdirected. He was directing towards this self-enlightenment. He was fulfilling the perfections to this direction, to this aim, to this goal. And in his last life, being born as a prince, having all the luxuries in the world, but yet he was not distracted by them. He was not misguided by, disillusioned by those worldly pleasures. His direction was never wavered. He left all those distractions and started stepping little by little on this spiritual journey. For 6 years, continuously he put his effort on this path of spirituality. But ultimately he found what? Nobody can teach him. Nobody can teach him to achieve this enlightenment. And all his people, the supporters, the followers left him. This is the Bodhisattva we misunderstood. We have misunderstood this person. He is not supposed to be enlightened. They left him. But still, he took a novel path, new path of middle path, and he started walking on it. And he received that enlightenment. And after the enlightenment, again his effort, his endeavor was continuing. Now for the others. First for himself. Himself to be enlightened. Now for the others. One by one. In search of the correct individual who is capable of understanding him and practicing on his teaching. He was traveling throughout in India by foot and reaching those individuals and directing them until the last moment of his death. His effort on helping others to be enlightened was never wavered. Such strong was his effort in his heart. Because of this, Payatna Bhagya, because of this blessedness of effort or endeavor in the heart, Buddha is called Bhagavan. Now, these are the 6 factors of blessings or 6 factors of fortune that those ancients explained a person of fortune, especially those people of secular life. If those people are having these 6 factors of blessings, 6 factors of fortunes, Isvarya Bhagya, lordship over materials, lordship over others, Dhamma Bhagya, their spirituality, Yasa Bhagya, their fame, Sri Bhagya, their appearance, pleasant appearance, Kama Bhagya, their wish fulfillment, and the Payatna Bhagya, their endeavor, their effort. These are the 5 factors they used to judge the success of somebody's in the secular life. Now these same factors were applied to the Buddha in the supramundane level, in the non-secular level of his spiritual development. And they found Buddha is so fortunate in his spiritual development. He was dominant over his mind. He had the lordship over his mind. He had these mundane and supramundane levels of Dhamma with him. And he had the fame, the popularity, and the followers around him. And his appearance was divine. His wish to be enlightened and to direct others to be enlightened was fulfilled. And his effort, unwavering, untiring effort to become enlightened and to help others was incomparable. Buddha had this incomparable 6 types of fortunes with him, and the world noticed it. That's why ancients called him, he is Bhagavan. But in the Buddha's eyes, Bhagavan is not because of these 6 fortunes, but because the factors I mentioned very earlier in this talk. Because he destroyed craving, destroyed anger, destroyed delusion, destroyed wrong views, and destroyed desires. Because of these 5 destructions, Bhagga, Bhaggaraga, Bhaggadosa, Bhaggamoha, Bhaggadhitti, because of these destructions of these defilements, Buddha himself said, I am Bhagavan. World said he is Bhagavan because he possessed these factors of the lordship, the fame, the appearance, wish fulfillment, and the endeavor. Because of these 6 possessions, the world said Buddha is Bhagavan. Buddha himself said, I destroyed these enemies of Nibbana. That is why I am Bhagavan. So this is the last epithet, which we called the Blessed One for the world. The Blessed One for the entire universe, the Bhagavan. Today this Dhamma talk was sponsored, as I mentioned before, sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Damita and Usha De Silva, with the son and daughter Akita and Nishadi, and also Mr. and Mrs. Kanchana and Utpala Pereira, with the 2 sons Kemet and Imet. The aspirations are to share these merits together with their departed ones, and also to wish to aspire for the bright and successful future for their children. These are the wish, and let's dedicate all these merits for the departed ones of these devotees who sponsor these Dhamma talks and today puja. By the power of these merits, all those departed ones be rejoiced. May their present existences become blissful, happy, and peaceful. May these merits pave the way for them to overcome their sufferings and to attain the final bliss of Nibbana. Let's dedicate all these merits to the departed ones. Idamme ñātinam hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idamme ñātinam hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. Idamme ñātinam hotu sukhita huntu ñātayo. May all the divine beings be rejoiced with these merits, and may their blessings upon with aforementioned the sponsors and those children, may their blessings be supportive for their aspirations to be fulfilled, for the children to have brighter and successful future, for their education to be successful. And may all these merits assist us to receive the final liberation of Nibbana. Sabbetyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinassatu mate bhavattvantarayo sukhe deghayuko bhava. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.